The champagne silk scarf binding Zara's wrists above her head was loose enough to slip free if she really tried, but tight enough to send a thrill through her entire body. King Minju's eyes were molten as they traced every curve of her dark skin against his white sheets, the Seoul city lights filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting shadows across them both. "Tell me one more time," he demanded, his accent thicker than usual, rough with emotion. His fingertips ghosted from her collarbone down between her breasts, circling her navel, making her skin break out in goosebumps. "Minju, please," Zara whispered, her body arching toward him involuntarily. "Not that." His palm flattened against her hip possessively. "What you said earlier, when you showed me the files. What you said when I asked why you didn't just disappear." Her pulse thundered in her ears. Earlier tonight, she'd walked into his study and laid out proof that his own flesh and blood was plotting his downfall. Earlier tonight, she'd watched the exact moment his heart broke behind those cold eyes, and when he'd asked her in a voice so quiet it barely existed why she stayed, why she kept digging when anyone with sense would have run from his world, the truth had tumbled out before she could stop it. "I'm in love with you," she breathed now, watching his jaw clench. "Say it again." He lowered his body over hers, caging her in, his mouth hovering so close to hers she could taste his breath. "I need to hear it one more time, Zara. I need something that isn't poisoned tonight, something pure in all this corruption." "I'm in love with you," she said louder, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Every terrifying, scarred, magnificent piece of you, King Minju. I love you." Something cracked in his expression, vulnerability so naked it physically hurt to see. "You shouldn't," his voice broke. "You should be on the first flight back to Accra." "I know, but I'm not going anywhere. You don't understand what I'll have to do, what I'm capable of doing to my own cousin." "I understand exactly who you are," she strained against the silk binding, desperate to touch him, to hold him together. "And I'm still right here. I'm still choosing you." His control shattered like glass. The kiss was almost violent in its intensity, possessive and desperate and consuming. His hands mapped her body like he was trying to brand every inch into his memory, like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When he finally untied her wrists, her fingers immediately tangled in his dark hair, pulling him impossibly closer. "Promise me something," he said against the curve of her neck, his breath hot on her skin. "Promise me that when everything falls apart tomorrow, when I do what needs to be done, you won't look at me differently. You won't leave." There was something fractured in his tone, a crack in that impenetrable armor that made her chest ache. This powerful man, this feared kingpin who controlled half of Seoul's underground, was falling apart in her arms. "I promise," Zara said fiercely, her voice unwavering. "I'm not going anywhere, Minju. Whatever hell comes tomorrow, we face it side by side." He pulled back to look at her, his thumb brushing across her lips with devastating tenderness. "You walked into my life 4 months ago and completely wrecked me, do you know that? Made me want things I swore I'd never want again. Trust, hope, a future. Is that such a crime?" His smile was heartbreaking. "It is when everything might crumble tomorrow, when my own family wants me dead, when the only person I trust completely is a woman I've known 120 days but would destroy cities for." She cupped his face, forcing him to see her, to really see her. "Then forget about tomorrow. Be present with me right now. Love me right now. Let me be your sanctuary tonight. Just tonight," he echoed. But they both understood it was a beautiful lie. This wasn't just for tonight. This was permanent, complicated, terrifying, and absolutely inevitable. As he finally gave them what they'd been denying themselves for months, as their bodies found a perfect rhythm, as he whispered her name like a sacred prayer, mixing Korean and English in sounds that transcended language, Zara knew she was falling into something with no way out. But watching the way Minju looked at her like she was the only star in his dark universe, like she was salvation itself, he knew he was falling just as hard, just as helplessly. And tomorrow, when they faced his cousin's treachery, when everything threatened to implode, this moment would be their anchor. This love, forbidden and fierce and achingly real. But before I take you through how we arrived at this explosive moment, how a Ghanaian marketing consultant ended up in the arms and heart of Seoul's most feared man, I need to wish each and every one of you the most magical holiday season. Whether you're celebrating with family or enjoying your own company with stories that make your heart race like this one, you deserve every bit of joy this season offers. And hey, since you're already here, do me the biggest favor and smash that subscribe button, turn on those notifications because fresh stories drop on this channel every single day. Your support keeps these stories coming. Now, let me take you back to where Zara and Minju's story really began, and trust me when I say it's absolutely wild. 4 months earlier, Zara had stepped into Kang Industries with nothing but her portfolio and raw desperation. Her work visa was down to its final weeks, her savings account was laughing at her, and every legitimate marketing position she'd applied for had gone radio silent after promising first interviews. She understood why. Despite her degree from Cambridge and her flawless Korean, corporate Seoul wasn't quite ready for someone who looked like her in their executive suites. The position posting for Minju's chief of staff had been deliberately vague, the salary ridiculously generous, the requirements strangely particular. Fluency in Korean, English, and at least one West African language, background in corporate communications and crisis management, availability for irregular hours, absolute confidentiality required, no questions permitted. She should have read between those lines. The interview lasted exactly 3 minutes. Minju had glanced up from her credentials once, his face completely unreadable. "Why Korea, Ms. Mensah? I came from my master's program, stayed because Seoul felt like home." Felt like home or felt like the perfect place to hide from Accra? Her back went rigid. "How could you possibly know? I know everything about everyone who walks through that door," he'd interrupted, standing and moving around his desk with predatory grace. "Your father's real estate empire collapsed. Fraud charges. He's serving 15 years. Your family lost their social standing, their wealth, everything. You can't return home because there's nothing left to return to, and overstaying your visa isn't something you'll consider because despite everything, you still have principles. Which is intriguing considering where you're seeking employment." Zara had straightened her shoulders, refusing to show intimidation. "If you already know all that, then you know I'm exceptional at crisis management. I'm brilliant at making problematic situations look pristine, and I have absolutely nothing left to lose, which makes me either incredibly useful or incredibly dangerous to someone like you." Minju had actually smiled then, a real, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "You start Wednesday, and Ms. Mensah, in my line of work, the most useful people are always the most dangerous ones." That's how it began. 4 months of 18-hour days, encrypted communications, meetings with men whose handshakes felt like death threats. 4 months of watching Minju dismantle empires with a phone call, orchestrate complex operations with a single word, and somehow still notice that she took her tea with ginger because she'd mentioned it once in passing. 4 months of pretending her heart didn't race when he stood close, when his hand would rest briefly on her shoulder during tense negotiations, when he'd switch from Korean to English mid-sentence just to see understanding light up her face. 4 months of falling for a man she had absolutely no business wanting. The night everything shifted began ordinarily enough. They were in his private office going over shipping invoices from Incheon. Minju had removed his jacket, loosened his tie, and Zara was desperately trying not to notice how the desk lamp made his features look almost sculptural. "These figures are wrong," she pointed at her tablet. "Someone's stealing from the Incheon shipments, and we're not talking small amounts. This is millions monthly." Minju leaned over her shoulder, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something woody and expensive. "Who has clearance for those accounts?" "Only 3 people. You, your cousin Jin-woo, and manager Choi." The atmosphere in the room shifted, temperature dropping noticeably. "My cousin would never betray me," Minju stated flatly. "Minju, the evidence is..." "My cousin wouldn't betray me," he repeated, but there was something underneath now, something broken trying to hide. Zara swiveled in her chair to face him.
This was treacherous ground. In 4 months, he'd never discussed family, never revealed anything personal. Their relationship existed in this strange, intimate professionalism where they could spend entire days together but never touch anything real. "Then let me dig deeper," she said gently. "Let me prove it's not him. I'll find who's actually responsible." His hand lifted, and for one breath, she thought he might touch her face, but he caught himself. "Why do you care this much, Zara? This isn't your world. You have options now. Your visa is secured. Why stay in the shadows with me?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with everything unspoken for 4 months. "Maybe I belong in the shadows," she whispered. "Maybe I like who I become when I'm there with you." The kiss that followed wasn't tentative. It was 4 months of magnetic tension, of careful distance and lingering looks, exploding all at once. Minju's fingers tangled in her braids, tilting her head back as his mouth claimed hers with bruising hunger. Zara's nails dug into his shoulders, pulling him closer, desperate for more contact, more of him. Consequences forgotten. When they finally broke apart, both gasping, Minju pressed his forehead to hers. "This is dangerous. I know. You should run. I know. But you won't, will you?" "No," Zara breathed. "I really won't." His smile was devastating. "Then let's be dangerous together, beautiful. But first, help me find the traitor in my organization. Then we'll explore all the other ways we can destroy each other." I can literally feel your hearts pounding through the screen right now. If you're obsessed with this dangerous chemistry between Zara and Minju, hit that like button and leave a comment telling me what you think happens next.
Can she really trust him, or is she walking straight into a trap? And if you're new to this channel, subscribe right now because we deliver stories like this constantly. Stories about love that defies every boundary and shatters every rule. Now, let's get back to the moment when everything explodes. The investigation consumed their lives. Days melded into nights. Office hours stretching until sunrise painted the windows. But now, everything had changed, become electric. Minju would stand behind her while she worked, hands on her shoulders, lips brushing her temple. She'd bring him coffee, and he'd pull her into his lap, stealing kisses between conference calls with distributors in Hong Kong. They hadn't gone all the way, not yet. It was like both of them instinctively knew that once they crossed that final threshold, there'd be no pretending this was casual, no denying what it really was. So they existed in this exquisite torture, all heated touches and desperate kisses that always stopped just short. But the evidence Zara kept uncovering grew darker, more damning, and every single thread led back to Kang Jin-woo, Minju's younger cousin, the only family he had left after losing his parents in a car accident 7 years ago. She was dreading the conversation she had to initiate. It was Thursday evening, rain hammering against the windows, Seoul transforming into a blur of neon that seemed wrong for the ugliness she was about to expose. "Minju, we need to discuss what I found." He looked up from his laptop, immediately reading her expression. "Show me everything." Zara pulled up the files, the offshore accounts, the shell corporations, all roads leading back to Jin-woo's inner circle. "He's not just skimming money," she said quietly. "He's constructing his own empire, using your infrastructure, your protection, but creating an entirely separate network. And there's something else." "What?" His voice was completely flat, emotionless, which somehow felt worse than rage. "He's been in contact with the Park Syndicate." Minju's phone shattered against the wall. The Parks were their enemies, the organization responsible for his parents' death, the family that had been at war with the Kangs for decades. "He wouldn't," Minju said, but he sounded hollow. "Not them, not after what they did to my uncle." Zara moved to stand directly in front of him, taking his face in her hands. "I'm so sorry. I wish I was wrong. I checked everything 3 times. I even had an outside analyst verify it to make sure my feelings for you weren't affecting my judgment." Something flickered in his dark eyes. "Your feelings for me?" "Minju, She hesitated.
They'd kissed, touched, spent nearly every moment together, but neither had spoken those words, made it undeniable. He stood abruptly, pulling her flush against him, one hand spanning her waist, the other cradling the back of her head. Say it, Zara. I need to hear something true right now, something that isn't about betrayal and blood. I love you, she whispered against his chest. I know it's insane and too fast and probably the most reckless thing I've ever felt. But I love you, Minju. I love your intelligence and your ruthlessness. I love how you remember tiny details about me. I love how you mix languages when you're exhausted. I love every part, even the parts most people would fear. His grip tightened, almost painfully. I've taken lives, Zara. I've done unforgivable things. I know. I'll likely do worse. I'm going to have to face my cousin, and that confrontation might end in bloodshed. I know. He pulled back to search her face. And you still love me? I'm not naive about who you are. I love you with full knowledge of what you're capable of. Does that make me damaged too? It makes you mine, Minju said fiercely, completely, irrevocably mine, and heaven help anyone who tries to change that. The kiss was different this time, slower, deeper, a vow and a claim simultaneously. When he lifted her onto his desk, scattering the damning evidence about his cousin, when his hand slid beneath her skirt, when she wrapped her legs around him and felt him hard and ready, it felt like falling off a cliff and learning to fly at the same time. Not here, he murmured against her throat, not surrounded by this. When I finally have you completely, it won't be with evidence of my family's betrayal scattered around us. It'll be in my bed, where I have all night to worship you the way you deserve. Zara shivered at the dark promise. So what happens now? Minju's expression hardened, the lover vanishing behind the crime lord. Now I invite my cousin to dinner and give him one opportunity to explain before I decide his fate. The family dinner was scheduled for Sunday at Minju's private residence, a stunning modern hanok in Samcheong-dong that somehow blended tradition with contemporary luxury. Zara wasn't meant to attend. It was family business. But Minju had insisted. You stay beside me, he told her. Always, from now on. I trust you more than my own blood, which should terrify me, but somehow it doesn't. Jinwoo arrived precisely on time, all casual confidence and designer streetwear, looking nothing like someone orchestrating his cousin's downfall. He was younger than Minju by 4 years, handsome in a softer way, without the razor edges that made Minju so dangerous. His eyes widened seeing Zara. Hyung, you didn't mention your chief of staff would be joining us. Zara isn't just my employee anymore, Minju said calmly, his hand settling possessively on her lower back. She's under my direct protection now. Anything you say to me, you say in front of her. Something unreadable crossed Jinwoo's face. Direct protection. That's quite the promotion. Congratulations, Miss Mensa. They sat for dinner, an elaborate traditional spread that nobody really ate. The tension was suffocating. Zara observed both men, noting the similarities and stark differences, the way they circled each other with practiced wariness. Finally, Minju set down his chopsticks. The Inshan shipments, the missing funds. Explain them. Jinwoo went completely still. Hyung, don't insult me with lies. Minju's voice was soft, lethal. I have bank records, shell companies traced to your people, meeting logs with the Park family. Don't lie to my face. The younger man's expression shifted, easy charm dissolving to reveal something harder beneath. You had me investigated? Your own cousin? You stole from me, my own cousin. I was building something independent, Jinwoo said abruptly. Do you understand what it's like existing in your shadow? You're the genius, the ruthless one, the one Uncle chose to lead everything. I'm just the backup, the younger cousin nobody respects. Minju remained seated, but Zara could feel violence coiled in him like a spring. So you allied with the people who murdered our family? That's how you earn respect? The Parks want peace, a merger of operations. They approached me because they knew you'd never listen. You're too obsessed with revenge. But together, Hyung, we could own all of Seoul. Both organizations unified. Under your leadership, I assume? Minju's laugh was bitter. And what happens to me in this grand vision? Comfortable retirement or just an unfortunate accident? Jinwoo's silence was damning. The room erupted. Minju lunged across the table and suddenly both men were fighting, years of resentment and love and betrayal manifesting in violence. Zara screamed as they crashed through furniture as she saw a blade flash in Jinwoo's hand. She reacted on instinct, grabbing the nearest object, a heavy ceramic vase, bringing it down hard on Jinwoo's arm. It wasn't enough to really injure him, but it shattered his focus, gave Minju the opening to disarm his cousin and pin him down. "You defend him?" Jinwoo spat at Zara, blood on his lip. "I've known him months. I've known him my entire life. I'm his family." "And you betrayed that family," Zara said, voice shaking but steady. "He loved you. He would have given you anything." "Anything except power," Jinwoo sneered. Minju pressed the knife against his cousin's throat, and for one terrible moment, Zara thought he'd actually do it, would end it right there. But his hand was trembling, and she realized with crushing clarity that underneath all his power and cruelty, Minju was just a man watching his last family member destroy him. She knelt beside them, covering Minju's hand, the one holding the blade. "Don't, please, not like this. You'll carry this forever." "He deserves this," Minju said, but his voice cracked. "Maybe, but you deserve better than that guilt. There are other solutions." Minju's eyes met hers, and in them she saw anguish so profound it was almost unbearable. Slowly he withdrew the knife, though he didn't release Jinwoo. "You're banished," he said flatly. "Out of Seoul, out of Korea. I'll give you money to start fresh somewhere far away, but if I ever see you again, if you ever try to contact me, if you even think about returning, I'll kill you, family or not. Do you understand?" Jinwoo's laugh was empty. "So merciful, Hyung. I'm sure she's very proud of your restraint." "Don't speak about her," Minju snarled. "Don't even look at her. She's the only reason you're still breathing." After Jinwoo was removed by Minju's security with instructions to have him on a plane to somewhere distant by dawn, the house fell into silence. Zara found Minju at the window overlooking his courtyard garden, rain falling steadily, his shoulders rigid. "You should leave me too," he said without turning. "Everyone I love either dies or betrays me. You should go while you can." Zara crossed to him, wrapping her arms around him from behind, pressing her cheek to his back. "I'm not leaving. I'm not betraying you. I'm staying right here with you." "Why?" His voice was raw. "Why would you choose this? Choose me?" "Because with you, I feel truly alive for the first time since my world collapsed. Because you see all of me, the broken pieces and the strong pieces, and you want me anyway. Because I know you, Minju. I know you're ruthless and dangerous, but I also know you remember I like ginger in my tea. I know you mix languages when you're tired. I know you just spared your cousin's life because underneath all that armor, you still have a heart, and I want that heart. I want everything." He turned in her arms, and she was shocked to see tears tracking down his face. This man she'd only seen in perfect control, breaking open. "I love you," he whispered. "I didn't think I could anymore, didn't think I had that left in me. But I love you, Zara. Desperately, completely, dangerously." She kissed away his tears, tasting salt and grief. "Then love me now, no more waiting. I want you, all of you, tonight." Minju lifted her in his arms, carrying her through his home to his bedroom, a space she'd never seen before. It was surprisingly minimalist, all clean lines and neutral tones, less cold than she'd expected. He set her down carefully on his bed, and the way he looked at her, like she was precious and sacred and utterly his, stole her breath. "If we do this," he said, kneeling before her, hands on her thighs, "there's no turning back. You'll be mine completely. In my world, that's not symbolic, that's binding, that's forever. People will know you're mine, under my protection, and that makes you both untouchable and a target." Zara framed his face. "Then we face it together. Make me yours, Minju. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you with open eyes." What followed was both tender and fierce, a claiming and surrender from both sides. His hands exploring every inch of her with reverent intensity, her nails marking his back as he whispered her name like a prayer, in Korean and English, in languages that existed only between them. When he finally entered her, their eyes locked, Zara felt something click into place in her soul, like she'd found home in this dangerous man. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, his fingers drawing lazy patterns on her skin, he felt him relax for the first time. "Stay with me," he murmured in her hair. "Not just tonight. Always. Move in here. Be at my side in everything." "Are you sure?" she asked softly. "That's moving fast, even for us." His arms tightened. "I've spent my life being calculated, being strategic, and it still didn't protect me from betrayal. So yes, this is fast, but it's also right." "You're right. The only right thing in my entire world." "Then yes," she whispered. "Yes to everything." But peace, Zara was discovering, was always fleeting in Minju's world. 3 weeks after Jinwoo's exile, 3 weeks of almost domestic happiness where she'd moved into Minju's home and they'd found a rhythm of work and intimacy that felt nearly normal, the threats began. First, a message, a single text to Minju's private number, the one only family knew. "You chose her over blood. Now you'll pay." Then photographs, images of Zara at the market, at her yoga studio, getting into Minju's car, always just her, always with crosshairs superimposed over her face. "It's Jinwoo," Minju said, voice tight with rage. "He's targeting you to hurt me." "So we find him first," Zara said, refusing fear. "We finish this." "We?" Minju's smile was sharp. "You're not just my partner anymore, are you? You're becoming my equal, my strategist. Is that permitted in your world?" "I don't care about permission. I'm changing the rules for you." They tracked Jinwoo to Singapore, where he'd apparently connected with a rival syndicate and was orchestrating something catastrophic, an attack on Minju's primary sole operations, scheduled for New Year's Eve. The final confrontation happened in a warehouse near the Han River, dramatically illuminated by the city's holiday lights, reflecting off dark water. Jinwoo had brought 12 men. Minju had brought 25. But it was Zara who walked forward first, unarmed, into the space dividing the two forces. "This is madness," she called to Jinwoo. "You're cousins. You're all each other has left. Is ego really worth all this blood?" Jinwoo's laugh reverberated in the empty space. "You think you understand us? You've been in his world for months. I've been there for 29 years. He's incapable of sharing authority, incapable of seeing me as anything but inferior." "So prove him wrong," Zara challenged, "not by destroying what your family built, but by building something worthy on your own. You have capital from what he gave you. You have connections. Start over properly, not with vengeance, but with vision." "Why would you even care?" Jinwoo demanded. "I threatened you, put you in crosshairs." "Because he loves you," Zara said simply, gesturing back at Minju. "And he's tearing himself apart trying to choose between justice and family. Because I understand what it means to lose everything and rebuild. Because tonight, all this violence, it doesn't have to be how this ends." There was a long, excruciating silence. Then Jinwoo lowered his weapon. "You're either impossibly brave or impossibly foolish," he said to Zara. "Probably both," she admitted. Minju stepped forward, standing beside her, a united front. "I should have truly seen you, not just as your younger cousin, but as your own person with your own capabilities. I should have given you real authority, real opportunities, not just orders. That failure is mine." Jinwoo's expression wavered. "Hyung, but you," Minju continued, voice hardening, "you went to our family's killers. You threatened the woman I love. Those things can't be erased, even if they're forgiven. So here's my final offer. Take the capital, build something in Singapore or Manila or anywhere outside my territory. In 5 years, if you've proven yourself legitimate, if you've built something substantial without exploiting our family name, we'll meet again as equals. Maybe not as family, not anymore, but as allies. That's the best I can offer." I need you to stop scrolling and tell me in the comments right now, should Jinwoo accept this deal? Can these cousins ever truly reconcile? Or is some betrayal too deep to heal? Hit that subscribe button because this story arc continues. We'll be returning to these characters. And slam that like button if your heart is still racing from all this intensity. Now, let's wrap this up. Jinwoo accepted the terms. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, not really, but it was an ending without additional bloodshed, which in their universe counted as miraculous. New Year's Eve found Zara and Minju in his penthouse office, the city sprawling below them in an ocean of lights, all of souls celebrating while they completed the final paperwork dissolving Jinwoo's connections. You realize, Minju said, pulling her into his lap, 6 months ago I was alone, powerful but alone, and now I have you. Somehow you entered my world and made me want to be better, not just stronger. Zara wove her fingers through his. You make me braver. Before you, I was merely surviving. Now I'm actually living. Dangerously, he noted with a slight smile. The best kind of living, she agreed. He reached into his desk, producing a small box. Inside was a ring, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds, unique and unexpected and absolutely perfect. In my world, he said quietly, this is a promise, a binding. Marry me, Zara, not because it's safe or conventional, but because I can't imagine any future without you in it, because you're my conscience and my courage, because I want to build something with you that isn't about territory or control, but about us.
Zara's eyes blurred with tears. You're supposed to be this feared crime lord. You're not supposed to be this romantic. Only with you, he promised. Only ever with you. So what do you say? Will you marry a dangerous man and embrace a dangerous life? She kissed him deeply, pouring everything into it, all the love and terror and absolute certainty. Yes, yes to all of it. Yes to you forever. As he slid the ring onto her finger, as they sealed the promise with more kisses that grew heated, as he swept his desk clear with one motion and lifted her onto it with clear intent, Zara marveled at the impossible path of her life. 6 months ago, she'd been desperate and isolated. Now she was engaged to Seoul's most feared man, working beside him, loving him with everything, despite and because of the darkness. Wider, Minju murmured against her throat, hands on her thighs, echoing words from their first time. Let me see you, every perfect inch. Always, she promised. You get all of me, Minju, the good, the damaged, the broken, and the brave, all of it. And you get all of me, he vowed, my empire, my demons, my heart, especially my heart. Outside, Seoul celebrated the new year with fireworks and music and joy. Inside, 2 people from opposite worlds bound by love and danger and absolute certainty celebrated their own miracle, the impossible love that had transformed them both. It wasn't a fairy tale, it was better. It was real, messy and passionate and dangerous and achingly true. And as Zara wrapped herself around the man she loved, as they lost themselves in each other while the city sparkled below, she knew she'd choose this life, this love, this dangerous, beautiful man again and again, without hesitation. Because some loves are worth every risk. Some loves are worth setting the entire world on fire for. And what she and Minju had forged in darkness and sealed with passion was exactly that kind of love. Forever dangerous, forever theirs, forever. And that's how a desperate consultant became a queen of Seoul's underworld, how a ruthless kingpin learned to love again, and how New Year's became the season they both found their home in, each other. If this story moved you, if you felt every emotion alongside Zara and Minju, show this video some love with that like button. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Was it the first kiss, the warehouse confrontation, or that proposal at the end? Subscribe to this channel because we're delivering more Afro-Korean romance stories, more forbidden love, more dangerous men falling hard for incredible women. Share this with someone who craves good romance with edge. And remember, the best love stories are the ones that shatter every rule. Until next time, keep believing in love that transforms, in passion that transcends boundaries, and in your own power to rewrite your destiny. Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next one.